Tell me if you've heard this before. See, there are some guys, there's like one group of guys and another group of guys, and they sort of like pass each other somewhere, and one bumps up against the other, right? And the one guy turns around and says, "Hey, you bumped into me, man. What the fuck?" And the other says, "I didn't bump into you, you little faggot. What the fuck you want? You want some of this?" And then all of a sudden, these two groups of guys, they wind up beating the shit out of each other, yeah? How many times have you seen something like that? I saw that shit plenty of times when I was young. Fuck, a lot of times I was one of the ones who like started this shit. Yeah. Little bump, a little this, that, or some weird look or whatever the fuck, and all of a sudden, hey, what the fuck is the matter with you? You want a piece of me? Huh? You want a piece of me? Come here, you little fucking faggot. I'll kick the shit out of you. Yeah, you fucking son of a bitch. Yeah. Well, young guys do this all the time because young guys are trying to establish their bona fides of being a man, because they figure that being a man is, kicking the shit out of the biggest guy that they possibly can. Yeah. Well, nowadays, I've noticed that young guys today, they're kind of faggoty-ass bitches, really, if you think about it. They don't want to get into any street fight or anything like that, or maybe they've been so conditioned with zero tolerance that any little fucking pushy-push fist fight, and they, go to jail for 20 years or some shit like that. Who knows? But whatever the fuck. When I was growing up, there was all kinds of, confrontations over piddly-ass stupid shit. Right? And people getting the shit kicked out of him or kicking the shit out of others, right? Over nothing. Yeah? Yeah, I look back on that, and in my own case, I'm very embarrassed by a lot of that shit when I was a young guy, as a teenager, early 20s, what have you, right? But as I've gotten older, well, no, on the contrary, I don't escalate. On the contrary, I de-escalate in every situation. And it's always been better. Young guys, why do they escalate a situation? A lot of times it's because they want to prove that they are dominant, because they are fundamentally insecure. See? A young guy who's 18, 20, 22, he might feel insecure about who he is. He might feel insecure about being a man. He might, he's in the body of an adult, but mentally he's not quite there yet. Maybe in parts he is, but in other parts he's not. And so out of this insecurity, he starts, being very aggressive when you don't need to be aggressive. He starts escalating a situation when you need not escalate the situation, right? Now, this is all good and fine when you're young, okay? You're a young guy, and it's perfectly normal, and it's regrettable, but it's a part of growing up, right? The problem is when you get older, and these situations of escalating don't involve a potential fist fight, which after all, a fist fight is going to be a relatively short thing. It'll happen then and there and it'll be done. No. It starts happening in things that are properly of adults. Lawsuits, big hassles, big fights that involve a lot of people. They start escalating in those situations. And that can be extremely dangerous. Yeah, because when you're a young guy and you escalate some stupid little fight, you'll have a little street fight and that'll be that, right? Assuming you're living in a normal country where a little street fight, is not a big deal, right? But anyway, as you get older, you will start having fights that are about adult issues. And these fights, legal fights or what have you, or just very tense situations, they can cause a lot of damage. They can cost you a lot of resources, a lot of money, time, attention, potential other opportunities lost because you are focusing on this escalation. And so what you have to do is that whenever you get to a point where there is a potential conflict, what you have to do instantly is figure out a way how to ratchet it down, de-escalate. Even with people that you hate, even with people who are your potential enemies, it is always smart to de-escalate. You see, because what happens is that in an escalation of a situation, in the escalation of a confrontation between two or more parties, right? As, tensions rise, the degree of unpredictability increases. The more tension, the more likelihood of direct clash, the more unpredictable the outcome. But if things are relatively stable and not so tense, it's easier to pick the right course of action long term. Because ultimately that's what you want. You want your long-term benefit. And you're willing to have a short-term loss even even relatively consistent short-term losses, so long as you get the long-term goal. We've all heard of that general who won every battle but lost the war, right? You don't want to be that guy. If you have to lose little battles along the way in order to get to your objective, then you do that. And the problem, more often than not, is pride. Pride is what can kill you. Yeah, because it's pride that makes you take bad decisions, makes you get into a confrontation when you shouldn't have, makes you get into a battle that you should have walked away from. You're walking down the street and you're a grown man, say you're 30 years old. You walk down the street and somebody bumps you on the shoulder. Maybe he did it on purpose, maybe he didn't. But let's suppose, for the sake of argument, that he did it on purpose, because he's an asshole, right? And you turn around and you say, hey, what's up with you, motherfucker? Why are you doing this, huh? And maybe the guy turns around and, you have a few words and all of a sudden you're hitting each other in the middle of the fucking street. And the cops show up, arrest the both of you for disturbing the peace and assault and battery and all the rest of it. And all of a sudden, you're in the clink over a fucking, somebody bumping into your fucking shoulder. How smart was that? It's excusable when you're 17, 19. You're a grown man of 30? What the fuck? Yeah? And think of the opportunities that you could lose because of this. Because you get thrown in the clink, even if it's for a night, it can cause a lot of damage in your life, in your career, your business, what have you. Yeah? Let alone if you get like arrested and charged and it's like a whole thing and you have to post bail and there's a trial and the prosecutor is going to try to get you thrown in jail for, 6 months for some shit like that for over a fucking shoulder bump. You go to jail for 6 months. What the fuck? You see what I'm saying? But pride will make you do that. Pride will make you take a stupid decision. Pride will make you, rather than ignore the shoulder bump, pride will make you turn around and say, what the fuck are you doing? Who the fuck are you? You want a piece of me, motherfucker? And, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months in the clink over fucking nothing. Over pride. Pride can kill you. Pride is an emotion. Learn to control it. Learn to control it. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to sacrifice a little bit of pride in order to walk away from a situation, de-escalate the situation. The guy bumps you on the shoulder, for instance, and you turn around, you look at him, and even though you might know that you could beat the ever-living shit out of the guy, you say to yourself, it's not worth it, and you just turn right back around and just walk on your way. The guy will think that he has some victory over you. Who gives a shit? He's just some random nobody. You control your fucking pride. You control that emotion, which is a very powerful emotion, especially when you are insecure. Because pride rears its very ugly head when you are insecure, when you are not confident in who you are. When you are very confident in who you are and what you can do, little insults, little, shoulder bumps do not bother you. Because you know. And, like Conor McGregor, right? He's a big MMA fighter, whatever the fuck. I don't follow that shit, but that's what I hear. Anyway, that motherfucker, he seems like a normal dude. He's dressed up in normal clothes and he's probably no big deal to look at, right? Yeah, if he's walking down the street and some stranger bumps up into him and gives him a leer, right? What's Conor McGregor going to think? He's going to think, man, I could kick the ever-living fuck out of this guy like that. But I'm not going to. Why am I going to bother with a nobody? And he'll keep on his way because he knows. He knows that he could take him. But you, maybe you're not so good in a street fight. Maybe you're insecure about whether you're good in a street fight. And I'm not talking, this is just a metaphor here. I'm not talking about an actual street fight. It could be in anything, right? Maybe you're insecure about it, and so you think to yourself, well, I'm gonna step up. I'm going to be a man, right? You're being not a man. You're being ruled by your emotions. And who is ruled by their emotions? Fucking women. Yeah. A man, a real man, like I tell you, rules his emotions. He is not ruled by them. A real man controls his emotions, controls his insecurities, controls his pride, and does not allow his pride or his insecurities to dictate his actions. You see what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I understand this desire sometimes to really stick it to some motherfucker. Yeah? Some guy who bumps your shoulder. Again, This is just a metaphor because there are lots of ways that people can bump your shoulder in more abstract ways, right? In their attitude towards you, their despective words towards you, all kinds of ways. And I know what that feels like because it's happened to me. It's happened to everybody, okay? And yes, it is very bitter sometimes to walk away. Sometimes it's extremely bitter, especially when you are not sure if you could win. Because like in the Conor McGregor case, the guy knows that he could win, so he's not going to bother because he knows he could win. There's no question. He could beat the ever-living fuck out of the guy who bumped his shoulder, right? So he walks away and he's not even going to think about it. You only think about it when you're not really sure if you could win. You see? When you're like, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. And what's going on is that you want to test to see if you could win, if you have it in you to win. And that's the terrible trap, you see? Because you're not sure if you could do it. And so there's going to be this urge, this very natural urge that you have as a man to see if you could, to escalate, to, you know, take a swing at the guy, be it a literal street fight or a metaphorical street fight. And it is because, like all men, you want to figure out your limits. You want to figure out what you can do and figure out what's just beyond your grasp. It's a normal part of being a man. Women don't have this problem. The vast majority of women do not try to bump up against their limitations. But a man does, because a man has to know what his limitations are so that he can be effective out in the world. And I'll tell you that sometimes when it comes to fights, and I'm not talking physical fights, I'm talking about in any kind of situation, sometimes it is smarter to step back, to de-escalate. And you know what's the easiest way to de-escalate a situation? Just go up to the person and say, "Hi, my name is John, and I just want to know what's up, man. Sorry if I bothered you. I didn't mean to." Yeah. You introduce yourself, you say who you are, and you just say that you're sorry and that you didn't mean whatever. Yeah. And a lot of guys are going to say, "Oh, but that's fucking beta. You're rolling over for the guy." No, you're not. Okay? You're just saying you're sorry, and saying you're sorry doesn't mean shit. You don't actually have to mean it, right? But the point is that when you say that you're sorry and that you didn't mean it, the guy really doesn't have any place to go. What's he going to say to that? He's going to say, "Well, fuck you, I don't accept your apology." He'd be like a dick, right? And when you reach out with your hand to shake his hand, and you say, "My name's John, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you," or whatever the fuck. What is he going to do? Anything other than taking your hand, introducing himself, and saying, "Oh, you know, I'm sorry," anything else that he says, apart from that, he's going to look like a fucking asshole, and he'll know it. See, whenever you are in a situation where conflict can escalate, you want to dial it down. You want to dial it down because it is unpredictable. It can go in any direction. And it could be that you win and you walk away scot-free and nothing happens to you. But it could be that you lose. And the point, see, a lot of times in a conflict, luck plays a role. And a lot of times, like I was mentioning Conor McGregor, you know, maybe Conor McGregor is the greatest MMA fighter in history and of all the world and all the universe, right? But he just has a bad day that day and the other guy kicks the ever-living fuck out of him, yeah? It could happen because luck plays a role in every conflict. And to not acknowledge that fact is just stupid, yeah? I mean, if it were just mechanistically predictable, then we wouldn't actually need to have, you know, boxing matches and championships and shit, right? Because it's not necessarily the skill of the two fighters. There is also that element of luck, the element of the moment, the element that cannot be predicted, that can lead to any outcome, be it positive or exceedingly negative, catastrophically negative, so negative that it ruins your life.